Thank you, Congresswoman, and I'm going to be very brief, but I just want to make 2 points so that you all understand what's really at risk here as far as I'm concerned. And the first is actually democracy. Turns out that there are no mail-in ballots in this election. It is an all-in-person election. Some of you were able to request absentee ballots, but you only got a couple of days to do that because of all the court decisions that have been going on in this election. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for legal electors in this state to vote. We passed a bill this year that says everybody gets a mail-in ballot. What you do with that mail-in ballot is your own business. Vote it, stick it in the mail, and it's done. Vote it, take it to the the voting center so that you know that you didn't stick it in the mail and it didn't get lost in the mail. You know you delivered it. That works as well. Or don't touch it at all and show up at one of the vote centers for early voting, which would happen 8 days prior to the election, or show up on election day and vote in person at one of the voting centers. In order to pay for that, we eliminated polling places for voting centers. So there are only now, right this minute, 4 voting centers open. There are not multiple polling places. But the problem is, because the recall statute was put into the Constitution 100 years ago, it actually was interpreted to take away mail-in ballots. So we have no mail-in ballots. So that process I just explained to you doesn't work for this election. The only way to vote at this point, if you weren't one of the ones that got an absentee ballot in those very few days where it was available, is to actually in person go vote. It's a very sophisticated, interesting way to suppress the vote. And the more the vote is suppressed, the less progressive ideas actually move forward. So they're working very hard to suppress our vote, and the way that we push back against that is to make sure we vote in person, and preferably vote no, because we don't want this recall happening. So where will you vote from here? The closest place is Centennial Hall, 200 South Cascade. You're about 1100 north here, so about 13 blocks just right along Cascade. And they're open from 8 to 5 today, 8 to 5 tomorrow, 8 to 5 on Monday, and then 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. But we would ask that you vote as soon as possible to take your names off the list so that we don't have to do any more work turning out your vote. So the second thing, very, very quickly, how did all this really happen? I mean, it's morphed into so much more than it is, but the NRA decided they didn't like the 5 pieces of gun legislation that we passed this year in the Colorado State General Assembly. What did we do? 5 things that we did. First, you got to reload after cranking out 15 rounds. Second, you got to get a background check so that we don't intentionally or accidentally sell a gun to a convicted felon, to somebody that's convicted of domestic violence, or to somebody that's violently mentally ill. Used to be before July 1st in this state, you went to a gun store, you had to do a background check. Since 2000, you went to a gun show, you had to do a background check. People put that in the Constitution after Columbine. But you could go to the trunk of my car and buy all the guns you wanted. Now you still can go to the trunk of my car and buy all the guns you want, but you've got to go through a background check first. So we haven't taken anybody's right to buy guns away. We've just said we want to check and make sure we're not selling guns to felons, domestic violators, or people that are violently mentally ill. Third thing we did was say that background check, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. The taxpayers aren't paying it for you. If you want to buy the gun, add the cost of the background check. Fourth thing we did concerned concealed weapons. You've always had to have training for that. We said you got to get the training in person and not just over the internet, so we have some idea that you know which is the business end of the gun. And the last thing that we did was take some existing federal law and move it to state law, granting state judges jurisdiction over domestic violence cases that allows them to sequester the guns if they think that's appropriate for the safety of the parties while they have jurisdiction over that case even before the conviction is entered. So that's what we did. As you can see, none of it comes within a country mile of the Second Amendment, but the NRA doesn't want the word gun in any bill that passes anywhere in this country, even though we have found ourselves burying our children at the hands of madmen that for some reason we've decided to equip as best we possibly can with the latest and greatest technology where you can spew 100 bullets in less than 2 minutes and injure or kill 72 people as they sit watching a movie. That's just not the way Colorado thinks. It's not the way the United States of America thinks. We've got to make this safe for democracy. And what we're saying with a no vote on this recall is just because you disagree with our policy doesn't mean we're going to recall people. Maybe you don't vote for me the next time, but I'm term limited next year anyway. But if we allow this to occur, then really what we're saying to large moneyed interests is anytime you don't agree with something that the legislature does, just recall that person and you'll get the same kind of gridlock in Colorado that you're getting in Washington, D.C. The drug companies have that kind of money. The oil and gas companies have that kind of money. The insurance companies have that kind of money. We need to work together as Coloradans and Americans to sit down at the table and figure out what works for the public interest as well as for the private interest as well as for the corporate interest and fashion the public policy that way and not fashion it through threats and intimidation and bullying, which is what recalls are all about. So thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for taking the 60 minutes or so it will take for you to walk those 11 blocks, register if you need to, and vote right then and there, or vote. And I've seen a couple of ballots being passed here for people that are going to take them down and turn them in. Thank you for those votes. We really, really appreciate that, and please keep up the good work, and don't forget to study.
All right, let's give another hand for our wonderful speakers, Congressman Negev and Senator John Morse. They did a really great job. I'd like to touch upon what Senator Morse was talking about in terms of voting. Right now, the CC Democrats are going to lead a charge downtown to 200 South Cascade, the Centennial Center, to cast some votes. So if you're registered to vote in Colorado and you want to march down with us or take a shuttle, because there are shuttles being offered by the CCSGA, grab your CCID. If you have any ballot information, grab that as well, and come down with us and cast a ballot in this election. It is important to make your voice heard.
And if you're eligible to register, register and vote today.
And if you're eligible to register, and you want to register in this great state of Colorado, because it is a very fun place to be politically active, I suggest you do that as well as soon as possible. You can do that online at govotecolorado.org, or you can do that right now if you march downtown with us to the voting center. Thanks again for everybody that came out. And just a reminder, if you're going to come vote, bring your CCID. That's your way of showing that you're registered in Colorado. And if you want to show that you support Senator Morse, we have a lovely Colorado Springs resident who's made up these bumper stickers for us. You can put them in your car, in your window, in your dorm, show that, on your backpack to show that you support Senator Morse and you do not support this undemocratic recall.
And they're free.
And they're free. If you aren't registered, but you've lived in Colorado for 22 days, you can register and vote the same day. So if you aren't registered, but you've lived here for more than a month or about a month, come on down with us while we march downtown and cast your vote. Thanks again, guys.